If you're a real estate coach or you're looking to become a real estate coach, I've got a story for you. My name's Kyle Stanley, and I sold my real estate coaching business in 2024 to the tune of $600,000. Why did I sell this money printing machine that had made nearly $500,000 the year before, and why am I interested in telling you this story? Well, that's what I'm gonna share with you today. And if at the end of this video you feel like this is the journey that I want to take, this is exactly where I want to go with my coaching business. I want to build something that can make over $250,000 of net profit per year, plus be a sellable asset, well then I invite you to go ahead and book a call with me. The link is in the description down below. So let's go back to 2019 when I actually started this coaching business. Now, why did I start it and why do I want to share this with you? Well, it's because you need to make sure that your intentions are really in a foundationally good spot as you're starting this coaching business. If you're looking to make a quick buck, if you are looking to just make a course that you can send to anyone and then you can make money off of that course and you never hear from your students and you never talk to your community and you just make this one-time thing that you kind of picture as a product, I'm here to tell you that's just not the way it works. It's not how you're going to make money. That's not how you're going to see results or success. So for that reason, if that's where you think you're gonna be, you either need to change that mindset or this just isn't for you. I personally started right after I had flipped my first house. That's right, I was not an expert and I actually wasn't even starting a coaching business. I just started a podcast and a YouTube channel. My goal was to connect with really cool people in the space, and I did just that. Pace Morby, Jamil Damji, Brent Daniels, all over the map. I met amazing people along the way. And then as I started to continue to build this audience, suddenly, I was building an expertise as well. Whether it was from learning from other people or just going out there and taking action, I was sharing my results with my audience in some solo episodes. And I ended up sharing how I was turning a property in Fresno, California into an Airbnb and how I was actually doing it pretty successfully. I'd made $2,000 on a property that should have, as a long-term rental, made $600 that month. And at that point, people started to ask me, how are you doing that? I thought I was the weird one. I thought Airbnb, like I was the weird person who wanted to do an Airbnb. I thought everyone else kind of like shamed it. Turned out a lot of people wanted to do it. And how did I know that? Well, I invited people to give me that feedback. Just like how I invited you at the beginning of this call to a consultation call, I also was inviting people back then to a consultation call, asking them what do they want to learn more about. And it was a resounding Airbnb. At the time, I was mainly just talking about flipping. I was mainly just talking about wholesaling, flipping, and bringing people in the real estate world onto my podcast and YouTube channel to talk about just that. But it was the Airbnb stuff that really got people going. And so this is where I really learned about my ideal client. I had tons of consultation calls. At one point, I remember looking at my sheet before I even offered anything, before I got into coaching at all, and I had close to 100 people that I'd talked to. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'd talk to 20 or 30. You probably already know your expertise. You know what you're good at. Maybe you're good at flipping, wholesaling, maybe Airbnb, maybe storage facilities, something along those lines. If you know what you're good at and people are asking you for advice on that, that's the biggest telltale sign that you're ready to get into coaching. It's not, oh, I think I can do this. It's, oh, people have actually come to me and asked me for help with this. So if the people close to you are asking that, then people out on the internet and on social media are probably gonna ask the same thing if you just share it. So I'm getting on these consultation calls, I'm asking questions like, what problems are you encountering? What are the desires that you have? Do you wanna leave a job? Do you wanna spend more time with your family? Do you wanna go on more vacations? And all of these things I started to gather, and every single time people were telling me, hey, I don't have a lot of money. I do have a lot of desire to wanna come back home to my family, but I got this paying job, wasn't even a high paying job, but I've got this paying job that is kind of a crutch for me. And so what I was able to do, because they were showing interest in Airbnb, is I was able to share with them, hey, here's how you can get into Airbnb without actually owning the property, without putting a down payment down, and without actually having to have any money in the deal if you don't want to. Is that something that you'd like to learn more about? And that in itself was solving their problem. They didn't have money, they had a little bit of time, but they had a large desire to come back home to their families and be dad at home or mom at home. And that's exactly what I was able to do. I helped a lot of people accomplish just that by getting into Airbnb and doing it without owning the property. But before I get deeper into that, the first step I took right after I had my offer, right after I decided, okay, Airbnb without owning the property and not having much money in the bank, this is gonna be what my offer is based around. What I did is I went back to that list of those close to 100 people that I told you about that I did consultation calls with, and I went to the ones that I had the best conversations with, the ones that I could tell this person is a hard worker, this person's going to get results, this person has a lot of desire to come back home and to leave their job or to do more with their family. And I went to them first. And so there was 20 people on that list, and I called 20 people and I said, here's what I want to do. I want to launch a course and a community that's going to help you achieve exactly what you told me. You want to leave your job, you want to come home to your family, your 2 kids, your 3 kids, however many it was, and you want to do this in a way that doesn't stress you, that doesn't put a lot of strain on your bank account because your bank account already isn't something that you're very proud of. So for that reason, I'm going to create something that will help you do just that. I'm going to help you get into Airbnb without owning the properties and with using little to none of your own money. Is that something that you like to be a part of? And they would either say yes or no. And then I would say to them, okay, if it's a yes, I'm going to send you a video. I want you to watch this video. It's going to go over everything within my offer that I'm going to offer, and we're going to start in 2 weeks. But oh, by the way, you're one of 20 phone calls I'm making, and I'm only inviting 10 people to commit to me on this journey for the next 90 days. Well, I did get 10 yeses. I actually got a couple more than that, but they just weren't quite there for an ideal client. And that's another just point here is make sure you're not just taking money in the beginning. Make sure that it's actually your ideal client, because if it's not, they might be a cancer to your community. They might not get results, and that speaks very loud. Results in the beginning is what you're looking for. So the ideal client that I was looking for, they had to be ready. It had to be the right time within their lives to do it. So I got 10 yeses. I told them all the same thing. This is eventually gonna be $7,500 or more. I'm gonna give it to you for $2,500. I made $25,000 in a week. At this point in my life, I was a struggling entrepreneur who had just flipped a couple houses, had bought an Airbnb, and had never seen over 6 figures in an entire year of owning businesses, of being in MLMs, of doing sales jobs. Heck, I was a sports reporter right out of college. I had done everything, and I had seen little to no success in regards to a monetary time for value of what I was doing in my life. And I made $25,000 in a week, guys. That changed my life. That changed my perspective on everything that I was doing. And now you're probably over there saying, well, yeah, but you talked to 100 people. Like, you had to have a big following. You'd have a big audience at this point, right, Kyle? No, I had 353 subscribers on YouTube at the time. And I actually have a video about that down below. So go ahead and click that, go check it out, because that will show you exactly how I was able to turn 353 subscribers into $25,000 for my launch for my real estate education company. But again, it just lifted all these limitations off of my shoulders. And I gotta tell you, I had a coach along the way too, who was really encouraging me to do this. I had hired this coach to just basically have a great YouTube channel. And by the end of my time with her, she was like, you should be charging for your coaching services. And I was like, come on, like, I don't know that much. And she's like, yeah, but all you need to know is more than the person that you're coaching. And that was another mindset limitation that I had on myself that you might have as well. You might be saying to yourself, I'm not the expert. I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. Think about it like this. I'm a terrible golfer. Best game I've ever had in golf was an 86, and I've done it twice, and ever since then, like, I'm lucky if I break 95. But my wife has never golfed before. In fact, until we started dating, she'd never picked up a club before. So is it not reasonable to say that a guy who barely can break 100 can at least teach a few things to someone who's never picked up a golf club? That's how you have to look at your coaching business. You're not marketing yourself as an expert. If you are an expert, you're ahead of the competition, great. But if you can at least help someone, if you've helped someone already to accomplish something within the field of real estate that you're doing already. Again, maybe you have flipped 4 houses and someone else wants to get into flipping and they say, hey, you've flipped 4 houses. And you're gonna have this imposter syndrome of, oh, well, I can't teach them, I'm not an expert. Yes, you can. You literally just flipped 4 houses. You flipped 4 more houses than that person. So why are you putting a limitation on yourself that you can't do this, that you can't teach someone when you've actually done it yourself? You're the golf instructor, they're the golf novice. Look at it that way. But the cool thing is you don't have to be the golf expert. You can just be an instructor for that person to get them to where they need to go. Now let's go back to that $25,000 I made. The next step I had with these students was launching the course. And I did not launch that course before I had them. I launched it after they had already paid and committed. Now this is gonna scare you a little bit. It's gonna also shock you because most people, when they create a course, the really good course creators out there, do not make the course until they have the sales for the course, and then they create it. So that's what I did. I got the clients and I said, what can I do to serve you best? And I got them all in a room and they all said, here's what we want, here's what we're looking for. And I started creating that. So I made module number 1. We did a group training call and then I got feedback and I asked them, what do you want to learn next? And then module number 2, feedback, group training call, asked them what they want to learn next, module number 3. I made it as we went. And this ended up being about a 10-week program. So I had 10 modules by the end of it and I just made it one step ahead of them. And I asked them along the way for feedback and I asked them what they wanted next. This makes it so easy because it takes all the pressure off of being perfect before you ever go out there and actually get the clients to tell you what they want to learn. Now, the really crappy thing about this is that this was launched in February of 2020, and y'all know what happened about a month later. So literally, middle of this course, I had 5 or 6 students of my 10 that were just like so close to a deal. And I'm like, yes, I can feel it. They're going to get results. I'm gonna get these testimonials. I'm gonna change some lives. And I'm also going to be able to have this sales page that has all these testimonials, and then boom, the world shuts down. And I had to wait. And I had to wait and see what was gonna happen. And I had to even ask myself like, oh my gosh, is my business dead? Heck, I even went and got my license as a life insurance agent because I didn't know where real estate was going. But as soon as I started to see my Airbnbs were still performing, at the time I had 6 or 7, I was like, okay, they're still performing even though it's COVID. And I went to those students and I said, hey, this is still working. And it gave them more confidence and they got into action. A couple of them got deals, but I had to really restart this whole thing because it impacted a lot of the momentum that I had. So what did I do? I saw a couple results. So I went out and I just told people, hey, this was working and Airbnb is still working. And now I wanna invite you into another launch. So I relaunched again. This time, guys, I doubled my price. I doubled the value because I knew exactly what they needed. I knew what they needed that I wasn't providing in that first launch group. And I relaunched, made $50,000, and literally it was about a 4-week period. We launched with that group, and then I was able to get massive results and testimonials from people that were able to leave their jobs, testimonials from people that had no money in the bank that were able to get properties. And all of this went onto my sales page so that by the time someone had watched a YouTube video and seen my sales page and then booked a call with me, they were pretty much already sold. They wanted to be a part of this because they saw what the results were from other people that I was helping. Fast forward about a year, so this is now end of 2021, and I've got 2 offers. I've got a $1,500 course that sometimes on webinars I would sell for as low as $600. And then I had this done with you one-on-one coaching plus group coaching with me, and it was $7,500. And I was selling a ton of those. That's what people wanted. They saw the value. They saw that, hey, I could literally leave my job. This could turn into a $100,000 business for me by the end of this year, and it only cost me $7,500. I was providing 10x and more of the actual value than what I was charging. We call that value-based pricing. But because of how I was structuring that, and what I want you to learn from me and my mistakes is that it was taking a lot of my time. I had a very low ceiling of how many people that I could help. $7,500, but I'm meeting with them every other week for 90 days. You start to look at the calendar and that fills up really quickly. And then the $1,500 course, well, no one was buying it because they were like, well, for $6,000 more, I could get all this guy's time. So I was selling very few of the $1,500 course and I was selling a lot of the $7,500 ones. So the thing I want you to learn about this is number 1, I was underpricing what I was selling. I was getting people a $100,000 business by the end of year 1 by working with me for 90 days and I was charging $7,500. I should have been charging at least $10,000. The goal is always to 10x the value. So what's the result? What's the transformation you're gonna go through? What's it gonna cost? It should be right around a 10th is the goal of whatever the value is. I would argue that it was even more value though, because by year 2, a lot of them were now up towards $200,000, and the amount of time that they had with their family, a lot of the opportunity cost of not taking advantage of this was even bigger because now they were able to write off taxes. They were able to write off all the gas. They were able to write off a lot of these things that as a working person, they weren't able to do. So really, what I probably would say is if I were to go back to the beginning, go back to this, I would say I should have been charging at least $15,000 for that $7,500 package. Number 2 is that people don't buy just a course. They just don't do it. If you don't have something attached to it, a community and support, they won't buy it. Especially in today's world with ChatGPT and AI bots and everything, I can learn more from this phone right here than I can from probably someone else's course. So what's gonna differentiate you and a course? It's gonna be you. It's going to be the person in front of the camera that they get to build a relationship with, that they get to say, hey, take me through this journey depending on where I'm at, show me the road, and give me the support along the way. So if I went back to 2021, 2022 Kyle, I would smack him over the head and I would say, charge more. Stop undervaluing what you're providing. But as I mentioned, I ended up selling this business at the end of 2023. So let me tell you how that ended up happening and how I was able to create a business that was a sellable asset that wasn't based on just me and my face, so that I could actually sell it to the next person and know that it would still be creating income. So skip ahead to 2023 and big life change. We have our daughter, Madeline, and I fell in love with being a dad, but I knew I was gonna fall in love with being a dad. And that was the cool thing, is that middle of 2022, I said, okay, here's my business and here's how much time it takes me. And I was probably putting in 30 plus hours a week with content creation, coaching, email marketing. I was doing a lot of the work and meeting with team members and all that stuff. And I said, well, what do I want this to look like? What I wanted it to look like was 5 to 10 hours max per week. So I said, well, what does this look like at a 5 to 10 hour per week business? And I took a step back and I saw, man, we have so many leads. We have so many people that we have to turn away because they don't have $7,500. They don't even have $1,500 to get the course, but they want it and they have this desire. And I said, well, what if we looked at it and we said, this is now a membership. And this is a really cool teaching moment. I'll eventually do more videos on this. Not a course. It is a course, but it's not based on the education. It's based on a membership model where if you have this membership, which we ended up valuing at just $49 per month, I promoted it as the most affordable way to be able to get into short-term rentals. And that's exactly what it did. It allowed them to have the course, allowed them to have a weekly call with me. I was in the group doing weekly calls. They had all the resources. They had discounts to memberships within the technology world of short-term rentals. It was a sticky offer because if they left, they would lose everything. They wouldn't have me, they wouldn't have the course, they wouldn't have the discounts, they wouldn't have the resources, none of it. And we said, okay, if we could sell that to 1% of our list, what does that look like? Our list was 50,000 people. 50,000. Do the math, and 1% is 500 people. At $50 a month, that's a $25,000 per month income, and it's very low overhead with very few people on the team. And all it was gonna take from me was making a little bit of content, coaching 1 hour per week, and sending out some emails every once in a while, which I could even have outsourced that as well, and I didn't. You know how when you make a plan and you're like, is this really gonna work? Well, this one worked. Month 1, we made $20,000. Month 2, we made $35,000 because of upsells that we had. And then by the time that month 6 came around, we had recurring revenue to the tune of $25,000 per month. And that's when I said, well, okay, at that point, it would have been right around like May of 2023. We had already had our daughter. I was falling in love with being a dad. It was 3 months in. I was spending so much time with my kid. I was spending so much time with my wife. And I just said, I made this into such a turnkey machine. It's like a long-term rental, right? Like you just put a tenant in there and it's good. I think I can sell this thing. And so long story short, I ended up calling one of my most successful students, and he was the first one that I said, yeah, I mean, it's on turnkey. It probably is gonna need a little bit of oiling the wheel a little bit, but you have a natural knack for helping people. You could take over this business, and he did. We sold that business at a 1.2 multiplier from the revenue that it created. So right around $500,000, we sold it for $600,000. We did it in a way that would pay me for a number of years so that it was a way to produce income for our family. That's not important. All that's important is that if you have the vision in your mind right now of getting into coaching, and you think to yourself, this is something that I want to impact a lot of people. This is something that I know I'm going to be passionate about for the rest of my life. This is something that I know that I really can do. Or maybe you're just thinking to yourself, I just get asked a lot by people, so I feel like I'm missing out on an opportunity if I don't coach people. I'm just telling you right now, there's going to be things that happen in your life that you're going to step back and you're going to say, does this business still make sense for me in my life? And for that reason, I would do this with any business. I don't care what you're doing. I would make sure that you're automating this business to the tune of understanding that this can eventually one day be a sellable asset because I'm working so little in my business that I can just plug and play someone else in it and no one will know this is the difference. Heck, you may have already done that with your real estate business. Maybe you flip, 10 houses per month and you're not the one going to the projects. You're probably not the one doing the accounting. You're probably not the one calling the sellers. You're probably outsourcing a large majority of that. If you're not, you should. It's great. That's one of the benefits of being in real estate is that you're able to outsource a lot of stuff for not a whole lot of money. Treat this business the same way. How can I make this an asset that anyone can take over and it can still perform? If anything happened to you, God forbid, if anything happened to you, would this business still run on itself? And that was what I asked myself every single day. If something happened to me, if something happened to a family member, if I had to shut down all of my efforts at the drop of a dime, is this business built for success? And that's how I ended up creating what was taking a lot of my time to taking very little of my time to eventually me just saying, you know what? I think I just want to sell it. I think I just want to move on. I want to be dad for a little bit. And here we are today, making this video in June of 2025. It's been just around 18 months. And during that time, what I've learned about myself is that I miss making an impact. I miss helping people. I've loved every moment of following some passion projects and being with family and traveling a ton. Holy cow, we traveled a ton in 2024, but I've missed making impact. And so when I had people come to me saying, hey, how did you build this business? How did you become a real estate coach? Or how did you take it to the next level? I knew that was that next sign that I should be helping people do this. And so if you're that person, if you resonate with any of that story, if you want to sell your business, if you don't want to sell your business, if you just want to create something that's even making $10,000, $20,000 per month, just book a call with me. I don't know how long I'm going to give that offer for, by the way. If this video, it's probably not going to go viral, but if it does go viral, I'm going to probably get like 10 calls and be like, okay, I can't take on anymore. So do yourself a favor. Do it as quickly as possible. Book a call with me. Let's talk about what you want out of your coaching business and what's holding you back from getting started. I'm looking forward to talking with you.